How did you first get involved with FrameKit?
I've been working on startups with Hector for like probably 3 or 4 years now. So when the previous one ended that we were working on, I was just kind of chilling in VC with him when he started spitballing the idea for FrameKit. Before the previous startup, we did kind of have an idea similar to this, but it was like going to use OpenAI's Sora model, the video one. But after Careerbook, we ended up pivoting to imagery rather than videos.
Were you excited when you heard the premise? Because I first heard the premise back in 2024 when he initially came up with it. Would you have heard it around the same time?
Yeah, probably around then. I think that's when we were discussing the Sora version of this idea. And it wasn't until after Career Book ended last year in 2025. I think it was around sort of April or May that the idea for like FrameKit as it not quite as it is now, but avoiding the video model and going like the image gen route, that happened last year.
When it started, was it just you and Hector?
When it started, it was me and Hector, and I think just me and Hector to begin with, and Rush, because he had a call with Rush, and that's kind of what kicked it all off. Because he just kind of sort of coincidentally he was having a catch up with Rush, and Rush was like, "Oh, I'm a 3D modeler now," and Hector was like, "Oh my God, light bulb moment! Like this is perfect." So I think it was us three, and I think did a little bit of work at the beginning. Maybe I can't quite remember, but he was quite stressed out after the whole career book stuff. So I'm not 100% on that.
Yeah, understandably. How would you describe your role at FrameKit?
Mainly a lot of development work, lots of coding, lots of helping out with infrastructure and deployments and stuff like that. I've done tiny bits of outreach on LinkedIn and going to events and stuff as well. I kind of just help out wherever I can, but mostly it's in the realm of coding, developing.
In the early days, back when it was still a template-based model, what were some of the hardest challenges?
Some of the hardest challenges were probably around sort of like solving that template problem that kind of is inherent to that solution. I think Hector might have mentioned this in his interview, but it's just really hard to kind of anticipate and make sure you have templates for absolutely everything a customer could possibly want, right? So that's probably the biggest challenge.
When the pivot happened from the template model to the fully AI-generated backgrounds, were there any challenges in that?
Oh yeah, loads, loads of challenges. You have to figure out the correct way to. Well, at first we had to. So obviously, all of the products are 3D models. So we had to figure out how to composite a 3D model onto the 2D AI generated image, which led to creating the 3D studio and all of the controls in there that allow you to sort of move and rotate and scale the product. And then, okay, fine, we now have the product on top of the AI generated image. How do we make it look like it's inside the image, right? There were a bunch of problems that we ran into at first, but I think we've come up with some pretty good solutions for them.
Can you give a good example?
So we use an AI model to estimate the camera angle of the scene, and that helps. So when you like drag a product into a project, it kind of handles the perspective already, and it works like that for the automated workflow as well. So, you sort of type in a prompt and it will generate the background, place the product, position the product, make sure the perspective's okay, relight it so that it looks like it's inside the image. All of those steps, even though it takes me 5 seconds to list through them all, were months and months of work in the pipeline.
How did it feel when the team really started coming together?
Honestly, to begin with, I was very hesitant because I think the first person to join the team may have been Ellen or Leighton. And Hector, I'm pretty sure, found them through co-founder matching, the platform that we've used in the past to find people for startups. And we have not had good experiences with those apps. That's where we met the people from the previous startups that we've had some like personal problems with. So yeah, to begin with, I was a little bit hesitant. I wasn't quite sure if it would end up the same way, but it very, very quickly became clear that the team we've got are very nice people, very enjoyable people with a good skill set that are passionate about what we're working on. Yeah, once it all started clicking, it was good.
In the interview I had with Hector, he said that there was really nothing else that can create images like this right now on the market. Do you agree?
Yes, yeah, I do agree with that. There isn't a product right now, as of today, that can produce product photo imagery to the quality that we can, as far as I'm aware.
Why is that? What makes FrameKit so unique in this current market?
I think it's just down to the way that we're solving the problem itself, right? Because you sort of combine the freedom of complete AI generation with the kind of anchoring of the product in the 3D model. So you kind of combine the accuracy of a fully 3D rendered image with the creative freedom that AI generation gives you. It results in basically an infinite amount of possibilities for images you can create, all whilst making sure that your text doesn't get messed up, that the lighting's okay, and all of that stuff.
Hector mentioned that you were all working to perfect the automated workflow. Is there a timeline on that? What more needs to be done?
It's most of the way there. It shouldn't be too much longer until it's done. But I think with a system like that, there's always going to be some improvements that we're going to be wanting to make to it over time. But I think for version 1, it should be good to go within the next couple of weeks at most.
Where do you see FrameKit going? How much more do you think you could offer your users by this time next year?
In terms of like value to the customers.
In terms of value, but also just new studio features.
In terms of new features, I think we want to flesh out the tools in the studio, add new ones, rework existing ones, stuff like that. In terms of the value add, sort of over the next sort of year, I think that even if a bunch of competition were to bring up and try and do the same stuff that we're doing, I think with the team we have, we're in a position that we can come up with very unique, novel ideas and try new things and make sure that our users are as happy, comfortable using the app and getting the most out of it that they can.
Do you plan on expanding the team?
I think right this second, the team size is good, but as soon as we start scaling, yeah, we're going to have to think about bringing people on full time, hiring new talent, but that's a bridge we need to cross when we get there.
Where do you see FrameKit in the next 5 years? Could you see this becoming a software as big as, say, Adobe Photoshop?
I would like to hope so. I don't know if, obviously, it would be nice for FrameKit to be a household name as well known as Photoshop or Adobe, but maybe it would be within the world of e-commerce founders, but like it's hard to say, right? It's hard to say because it could be the case that over the next 6 months things snowball massively, and in 5 years' time we're this big behemoth company with loads and loads of revenue and reputation and stuff like that. Or it could be a much slower process. We don't really know just yet. But ideally, I think at the very least, in the world of e-commerce founders and people who run Shopify stores and sell products online, I think we would definitely be a sort of household name.
What advice would you give to any aspiring founders out there looking to create their own tech startups?
Probably don't develop in a vacuum too much. One of the biggest things that we learned in one of your startups was you can spend months and months developing a product, but if you don't periodically put it in front of the people who would be using the product, you could be wasting time on features that nobody wants. So that's probably the biggest piece of advice. Make sure you have a good feedback loop with potential people who would be using your product.
Absolutely. Is there anything you'd like to say to your current users?
For the users we have now, thank you for taking a chance on such a small startup. Some people might be put off by that, but ultimately, because we're at this stage, we can really make sure that we're providing value for each and every one of our customers. And even as we grow, I'm going to make sure that we try and carry that philosophy through, because I'm a very big believer in not outcompeting in marketing or sales or things that you can throw money at, but outcompeting in terms of providing good value to the customers, good user experience, making people want to use the app because it's actually a joy to use, not because it's the cheapest or most well-known or whatever.
And to any new potential users out there?
If you're considering joining FrameKit, take the leap in terms of cost. We're priced quite affordably, and at the end of the day, products like these, you kind of have to almost see it to believe it, right? So sign up, do a demo, and hopefully you can have your own light bulb moment.